I would say everybody has some trauma. It might not be surfacing, it might not be showing up, but it's hard to go through life without, you know, having trauma. And especially when you were younger and you couldn't identify it, you didn't know how to store, categorize, organize it. And then depending upon how you were brought up, you basically either compartmentalized it, kept it from yourself, and just kind of stuffed it, as they say, instead of dealing with it.
For trauma, there's no one definition. And we actually sometimes overlooked those micro trauma and intergenerational trauma. And we go through therapy for one reason, but we realized we discovered that we are here for another reason.
Welcome to the Brain Fitness Podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Patrick Porter. Please join us on our mission to better a billion brains. Enjoy the episode and remember to share it with your family and friends.
Hello, this is Dr. Patrick Porter. Welcome back to the Brain Fitness Podcast. Today I'm going to bring you a special guest, someone who has actual sessions. If you're wanting to know, hey, does Brain have something in Hebrew? Well, we do. And Oneg has put it together. She's a transformational psychologist and behavioral therapist. She's a dedicated author and ambassador of hope for those embarking on a journey to heal with a career that blends professional expertise and deep empathy. We're going to talk today about trauma, and you've been there, you've done that, you've been exposed to it, and you wrote a book about it, The Phoenix Awakening, Rising Up from the Ashes of Trauma. And stay tuned, because we're going to share with you again at the end of this talk how you can get that book at a 20% discount. It'll also be in the notes of this podcast. You just put BrainTap20, and you can get from her website, which we'll be sharing, which is thephoenixawakening.com. You can go there and you can get her book. But Oneg, welcome to the podcast.
Yes, thank you. It's great to be here. Thank you for having me on your show.
So when we think about trauma, in your book, The Phoenix Awakening, Rising Up from the Ashes of Trauma, you're challenging the myths that are out there about trauma, right? A lot of people think that they stem solely from one significant event. Can you share just a little bit more about what's happening, what's diverse origins of trauma, and the impact it has on individuals right now? It seems like we're all going through some kind of trauma. Of course, where you're at, we're speaking, you're sitting in Israel right now, so we know there's a lot of trauma going on there right now. So tell us a little bit from your perspective in the book, why you're challenging this myth.
Absolutely. So there is a common misconception about trauma that it always arises from a single catastrophic event. But the reality is far more complicated. Trauma can stem from an array of sources. It can be the result of prolonged stress, such as enduring hardship, neglect, or abuse over time. It can also arise from seemingly minor yet chronic everyday stressors that accumulate and overwhelm an individual's capacity to cope. So for some people, trauma manifests physically through chronic pain or somatic symptoms. For others, it's psychological, affecting their emotions, thoughts, and behaviors in profound ways. So, as a psychophysiological therapist, I believe that all kinds of disorders are a result of repressed or untreated trauma. And in The Phoenix Awakening, Rising Up from the Ashes of Trauma, my new book, I delve into that complexity of trauma, and specifically around microtrauma and intergenerational trauma that can lead to an unadapted identity and self-doubt in response to adversity. And I think, yeah, I just wanted to say that I think that recognizing the broad spectrum of trauma origins helps us validate the wide range of experiences that qualify as traumatic. And we can expand our empathy and support for those who may not fit the traditional mold of trauma survivors.
Right. That's great. You know, in my field, of course, and that's why we're talking, is something called neuroplasticity. There's also something called neuropruning, which is how people disassociate, trauma and things of that nature, even though they haven't been resolved. But tell us a little bit about how does the understanding of this brain plasticity piece enhance your approach to healing the trauma? And what strategies do you recommend for leveraging the knowledge?
Yes, so to answer these, we first need to understand what's going on in our body in response to stress. So, what we want to keep in mind when we think about trauma is that it's not about the events in our life, but about the way we react to these events, especially the way our body reacts and adapts to new or dangerous situations. Our nervous system, both in the brain and along the body, is evolutionarily designed to support us, in overcoming life-threatening situations. But when it's way out of balance, because we haven't learned how to recover well, it keeps us in a cycle of pain, physically and emotionally. And trauma eventually is a physiological response. We know that the brain of people with trauma is less active in the front areas, which are related to high functions like cognition, decision making, and social interactions. At the same time, it's much more active in the back areas that are linked to survival. Let's say, for example, we all have this risk assessment radar in our brain that lets us know whether we are in danger. So, for people with trauma, this radar isn't functioning properly. And instead of relying on information from the environment, like sensory information, it relies on learned history. So, traumatized people confuse being safe versus feeling safe. They constantly see threats where there is no danger. So, they basically conditioned to believe that every time they are afraid, they are in danger. But the good news is that we have what we call brain plasticity. So we can remove this past conditioning by relaxing the body and constructing new narratives to our painful experiences. The combination between integration and relaxation brings desensitization and reduces the symptoms of trauma. So, using tools like biofeedback, CBT, EMDR, and techniques for self regulation and relaxation like meditation, rhythmic breathing, progressive muscle relaxation, alongside supportive affirmation, can really create a positive effect on the traumatized brain.
Yeah, kind of brings to mind, I know you put some sessions together for Brain Tap and you use technologies like that, and they complement the therapeutic approach to these kind of traumas. Tell us about how you've incorporated these into your practice, because obviously we have a lot of end users that have trauma, but we have a lot of practitioners that listen to the podcast. So maybe you can kind of tell them a little bit about your story. If someone were to come in to your practice with trauma, kind of take us through a client journey.
Yeah, so first, let me say that I personally admire BrainTap for being such a beautiful piece of technology that I believe brings the therapy experience to the convenience of your home. And that's why I also recommend it in my book. I think it's also beneficial for therapists to integrate it into their clinics as well. There's a large collection of effective meditation there that I use kinds of bilateral stimulations, guided meditations, positive affirmations, and binaural beats that all of these, as we know, can positively accelerate healing from trauma. And it complements traditional methods by directly engaging the brain's natural plasticity and encouraging relaxation and deeper state of mindfulness. So yeah, I think, and I want to say that the use of such technology also empowers clients outside the therapy room. They gain access to tools that can help manage their state of mind in daily life, fostering independence and resilience. The synergy between BrainTap and traditional therapeutic approaches has enriched my practice and offering clients a multi-phased path to healing. So for my clients, it was really a powerful tool to use outside the clinic. And it was something that we could discuss in our meetings about the effect and how they feel about it. And it was really, really supportive.
Right. I know you told some stories and things in the book, but for the listeners, can you share a little bit about when someone presents these kind of issues, what you go through and what the end result is? How long does this kind of healing take? Because a lot of people are, they don't know if they should even start therapy for this. They don't want to open it up because they don't know when it's going to close up, or they don't know when the integration is going to take place. Maybe you can shed some light on that.
Yes. So when we accept the assumption that trauma is a physiological response, we first need to understand that people with trauma don't remember how it feels to be in a relaxed muscle body. So the first step, or the first stage in therapy, is first to gain their trust and teach them how to relax the body. And it even before we start our models, specific models, we need to teach them techniques for relaxation and self-regulation so they feel comfortable inside their bodies. And only then we can start construct narratives and use these painful experiences in a positive way. So it really depends on the individual and what how powerful or how intense, or let's say how far his body from balance. So it really depends. But in my clinic, I use biofeedback as a supportive tool. And biofeedback is a technology that uses sensors attached to the body to monitor the physiological response of the nervous system in real time. And it's really powerful because we can measure objectively which techniques and strategies are beneficial for a specific individual. And then we can see, and then we can train them to self-regulate and relax their body even without this technology. But they have a kind of certainty what works for them. So those supportive tools can actually accelerate the healing journey. But I do understand that people can feel very can hesitate to go to therapy immediately because it's painful to go there to treat your wounds. But it's also very brave to do that. And it's something that I say in the clinic, that our expectation from life is that to have one line. I mean, our expectation from life is to have one line of experiences, all of which are positive, a line that goes up. Our fear is that it will be just the opposite, a line going down and a feeling that life is getting harder and harder. The compromise that we tell ourselves is that life is like a roller coaster, ups and downs. But what I believe to be true is that it's something in between. you always improve your position, even if it's in a wavy way. I mean, there are ups and downs, but you never go back to the same point. You are much smarter and more experienced than you were before. But the condition is that you allow the messages hidden in your experiences to teach you and bring you closer to your true self, to what you really want in life and not what you think you want. And that's why people with trauma, for example, stay stuck because they need help to uncover those messages.
I know it's not an easy thing to write a book. I've written a couple of them myself. So I know it's a big endeavor. You spent a lot of time doing it. You've been through trauma yourself. You wrote about it in the book. You're sharing your story. What kind of, what did it do for you? What was the catharsis for you to be able to write this book and actually share it and to help with your healing journey?
Yes. So I'm sorry, can you repeat the question?
I'm asking, when you wrote the book, because you shared a lot of your personal stories in there, did you find that it helped you to resolve some of the conflict that you have within yourself, to move on and share? Because sometimes, some books are written for other people, some books are actually written for ourselves, and then we share them with the world. So I was just kind of, I know it's a difficult thing when you think about, a lot of people look at a therapist and they think they're supposed to be, you know, all powerful and they never have a problem and they're going to have solutions for everyone. But you showed yourself being vulnerable in the book and how you resolved that. So I was just wondering if you could kind of share your journey of writing the book and how now where you're at with what happened to you.
Yeah, so thank you for this question. It's actually really good question because when we go to therapy, we do think that the therapist is someone that has no problem. But I believe that in order to treat people, to heal people, you need to be there, to know how they feel. And for me, writing this book was something that I felt like an obligation to do for me and for others because I have this unique perspective on the world, on people, and it felt selfish not to share what I realized during those years in the clinic. And really, this is a special book or unique book because I say that I always say that as we discussed earlier, trauma is not only one. For trauma, there's no one definition, and we actually sometimes overlooked those micro trauma and intergenerational trauma, and we go to therapy for one reason, but we realized we discovered that we are here from another reason. And yeah, so let's say I knew in my entire life, I knew I will become a therapist. And as my own healing journey unfolded, I got a deeper understanding of why this profession chose me. In my late 20s, I was diagnosed with prosopagnosia, often refers to as face blindness. And well, it basically means that I'm unable to recognize people by their faces. And I didn't know that. I didn't know that. I thought everyone sees the world the same way I do it. It's just they aren't insecure and embarrassed as I am. And yes, it's difficult to perceive life without the ability to recognize those around you, even the people closest to you, including your own face. This condition creates a feeling of being a stranger to people you know, a profound sense of disorientation. But speaking of brain plasticity, I've had to adapt to this limiting condition. So I start to rely on secondary information, such as body language, intonation, energy, emotions. And It can be quite challenging as the world can often feel overwhelming and intense for me, but it's also the greatest gift I've been given, the ability to perceive people for who they really are and not based on their masks or defense mechanism. And this is also what paved my way to become a therapist and write this book. As someone who holds a very unique perspective on people.
Awesome. Now, if I was just meeting you at a bookstore and I pick up your book and you want me to know 2 or 3 key things about the book, uh, so that I'm going to go up to the counter and pay for it, and buy it and use this book. What are you wanting the reader to know when you think about this, Phoenix Rising or Phoenix Awakening, kind of scenario?
Mhm. Yeah, so I designed this book to be a journey for the reader. Is and there's a lot of self-help book about trauma, but this one is unique because it was written from my perspective as a trauma therapist with face blindness. And I think the main idea is not to shock the reader. I could write about extreme cases that I've treated during my career, but I wanted to offer a different experience, an experience of finding yourself in each story and developing your empathy towards those stories and feeling related, empowered, and motivated to start your own journey. Whether you are struggling with known traumas and wounds, or you're not sure if there's something hidden inside of you that needs healing, or even if you are just looking for self growth and inspiration, these books can serve you in many ways. And following its recommendation will give you the transformation you seek.
Great. When you think about the world of trauma, I don't think we're going to have any shortage of it here in the future. It looks like it's accelerating, it's getting worse. Where do you see the integration of these kind of neuroscientific tools and insights, and how does your book contribute to that evolving field?
Yes, so the future of trauma therapy is incredibly promising, especially as we continue to integrate neuroscientific tools and insights into our therapeutic practices. Yet, I do want to say that I think we should invest much more in professionals and technologies for home use rather than in new models. We know from over 150 years of trauma research that relaxation paired with integration can heal trauma. So we want to first learn how to completely relax our body and only then construct new empowering narratives, no matter what the model is. And we need more professionals who understand the nature of trauma and aren't afraid to use technology in their practice. This is, I believe, this is how we can maintain the ultimate balance between science, intuition, and human connection. And well, my book, The Phoenix Awakening, um, emphasize the importance of a holistic approach to trauma therapy, one that combines the wisdom of traditional practices with the precision of neuroscientific findings. This holistic perspective is crucial for the future of trauma therapy, ensuring that we address the multi-phase nature of trauma in both the brain and the body.
So we're here talking with Oneg Shapira, and we're talking about her book, The Phoenix Awakening, and you can find it at thephoenixawakening.com. And don't worry if you're driving and listening, we're going to put this all in the show notes. And if you use the term Brain Tap 20, you're going to get 20% discount off the book. And so when you're thinking about other things, I know you also are on social media. You share on social media quite a lot as well. Can you tell us a little bit about what people can learn when they follow you? Because we're going to have your Facebook, your Instagram, and your LinkedIn profiles all connected to this podcast. People can follow you, whether you've experienced trauma, a member of your family's experienced trauma, or if you're a trauma therapist, you can learn from these stories, this technology, this technique, because I know that you're also into biohacking or consciousness hacking on your part, because it's more about working with people's consciousness and changing the way they view situations and circumstances, kind of the same thing that I do. In the same thing like that, what can they learn when they follow you on these social media channels?
Yes, so it's important for me to create balance between, let's say, historic and professional information about trauma, and using of technologies and techniques, and also raise the awareness to prosopagnosia, because I think those people is around, and you can't be completely sure how other people sees the world. So maybe they just have prosopagnosia. That's why they um, maybe don't recognize you. But so I think the information that I share on social media is for raising empathy and support and creating community that more sensitive, much more sensitive to each other, and eventually for being a beneficial presence in this lifetime, in this world.
That's great. So what is your parting message? I mean, we reviewed it. What would you like to review about the book, what they can learn because we really want to motivate people to discover more about trauma. A lot of people are sitting out there with unresolved trauma. They think it's normal, that that there's nothing they can do about it. And of course, we both know there is something they can do about it. They need to start kind of resolving it now. What happens if they don't resolve it too? I mean, what have you seen happen to people if they just kind of let it run its course without doing anything to resolve it?
Yeah. So a lot of people walking with somatic symptoms, with health issues, that it seems that there is no clear source to that. But trauma is a stuck energy in your body. And when you repress trauma, it will manifest. It can be in the physical, um, in the physical body. It can be or in the physical way or in psychological way. So it's really important to solve and heal your wounds, not let it accumulate, because it will manifest in one way or another. And as you wait, you will see it manifest in multiple ways. So don't, let's say, treat yourself with kindness. And all the idea, uh, all the idea of the book is to respect your experience. Trauma is not one thing. It can be micro traumas, it can be intergenerational traumas that influence your identity, because trauma is kind of a loss of identity. And when you choose not to treat your traumas, you don't live a life of intention. You are conditioned to react and to be to live life with fear, and that's not a good life. We want to live life with intention and make our time here like and make our time here valuable, and be what you intended to be, or what you meant to be, this magnificent, wonderful person you were meant to be.
Well, Dick, it's been great having you as a guest here, and I'm hoping that people will be inspired to go at least research about the book. I'm going to invite anyone who's going through some trauma or a family member who's going through it to get the book. It's very well done. and they can read it. They can start to, like you said, identify with the stories, maybe start to get some resolution. If they're going to a therapist, maybe share the book with the therapist, say, that you read this book and you recommend it, and then follow on social media. We'll have those below. And remember, use the code BrainTap20 and get 20% off the book. And then, of course, if you're out there with the Brain Tap, we're hopefully going to get Oneg to do some trauma sessions, because whatever we can do to help people resolve these things. I know you did the Hebrew sessions, but maybe we can do some in English as well, so people can get the resolution. Because the book I read, of course, was in English, so you can learn from it and discover some resolution there. The first step is to start resolving it, pushing it down, like she said. I loved on one of your posts, and I think it was on one of your Instagram posts, you said that trauma actually leaves a mark on the brain, and I don't think people realize that that psychological wounds, they might not show up on the outside of the body, but they're certainly showing up on the inside of the body.
Yeah.
And the quicker we can resolve those, the better. So any parting words you want to leave the listeners with before we end the podcast today?
Just to say, don't wait any longer. Really treat your wounds, awaken your inner phoenix, and live life with intention, with love.
Well, thanks for being so brave, because a lot of people would never share some of the things you shared in your book about what happened to you and how you're working with people, and I think that more people need to share that there is a resolution for that. People are, suffering in silence because they don't want to get out there. Maybe they feel like they'll be, like, I guess, ostracized, or people want to be around them because of the trauma they've experienced, because too many people identify the trauma with the person, and it's not the case at all. And we are the sum total of our events that happen to us, but it's more as how we process those experiences. I mean, I think you also said in one of your posts, and it's a saying that's been said many times, that it doesn't kill you, makes you stronger, one of the Marine kind of slogans we have here. And I think that's a very powerful way to say it. But we have to learn from those experiences, right? If we don't learn from them, we relive them. So if you're one of those trauma victims out there that seems like every relationship, every encounter ends up in some kind of trauma, then it might be something, not that you want it, but it's an inherent trait that you need to resolve, because it's going to keep showing up until you deal with it. So I'm going to invite you to go to the site, the phoenixawakening.com, read about it, buy the book, read it, get some discoveries from it, share it with anyone you know that's going through trauma. Nowadays, I don't think we can go too far without finding somebody. It might even be your best friend that doesn't ever say anything to you, but if they see you reading the book, they might ask you about it. You might be that person that helps them, see the light at the end of the tunnel, that they're suffering in silence, because it's one of those things that people don't really share. No one really, unless you're going to a group, nobody's really asking you about your trauma. Everybody's going through their own trauma. So this is a good step to get you to start resolving it. And I want to thank you for being brave enough to come on the show today, sharing it and writing the book. Congratulations. And I'm going to hope that
Thank you.
millions and millions of people will read it and get resolution. And, like you said, get people to live with a life of purpose and love and gratitude, and realize that this is a life where the more we help others, the more we help ourselves, and we just have a great community of people to work with. So again, thank you for being part of the Brain Fitness movement.
Thank you for having me. I just want to say that, I haven't mentioned that the book is, maybe it's not important, but the book is in English, even though it's not my first language, because I felt this obligation to share my insights from therapy with the world. And so and even now I'm doing the effort, because it's not, I think I express myself not good enough as I could do it in Hebrew, but I do the effort because I believe that everyone deserves to respect their experience. I said that there's a lot of self-help book about trauma that can shock you. that, and I have those cases in my clinic as well. But when you read about trauma, that it's more like in let's say daily way, you understand that it validates your experience. You understand that you deserve a place to speak about your wounds, and also um, just to say that my therapeutic approach is actually a combination between biology, psychology, and spirituality. So every content that I post is stem from this approach, holistic approach, and yeah. So I just it takes time for me to um, think in other language, but I hope you could use our conversation to create something that is is good. I hope so.
Yeah. No, I think it's great. I think you articulated it fine, and I'm hoping that Brain Tap Nation supports you by sharing this book out there with the world, because this is a time we need to be dealing with trauma in a more spiritual, loving, honoring way. You're not wrong or broken. You simply had an experience that needs to be processed in a way that's going to help you to take that next step in your evolution. So, the saying that doesn't kill you, make you stronger, it could be that which you learn from makes you wiser. So you
Yeah.
can you can you can kind of if you learn from those mistakes, obviously you don't have to relive them. You can resolve them with gratitude, with forgiveness. I mean,
And
there's really no
I
getting.
also
Go
I
ahead.
also say that, what doesn't kill you and makes you adapt. It
There
makes
you
you
go.
stronger, right? Because you have to adapt. As I adapt to this limiting condition. It's really is limiting condition, because the people with prosopagnosia, they don't like attention. They don't like to put themselves in the center. But I feel like there is nothing else in the world that I can do other or than being a therapist. I mean, it's it's I, I mean it's a gift, because I really can see people, their souls, and they don't need to pretend, and then they learn how nice it is to be authentic, and there is nothing else I'd rather be doing than help those people with with my experience and my knowledge. And I'm trying to do it to one soul at a time in the clinic, at a clinic, but with the book and the support of our listeners, and um, you know the articles that I write, I want to believe that it will get to those who needs it.
That's great. Well, you can support her in that mission, Brain Tap Nation. Let's get it out to people who are suffering, because there's a lot of people, and they might not even be sharing with you. So when you get the book and you have it out on your coffee table, or you're reading it at work, they might ask you about it. You could be the one that opens up their eyes to a solution, because there are solutions to the problems that are out there. So
Yeah,
again, I want to, yeah, go ahead.
Uh, I'm sorry. I just I remember that you wrote about um the what I wrote in the book about OCD, obsessive compulsive disorder, and I did do the connection, because I saw in the clinic that those people just looking for creative solutions. So OCD is the solution they found in order um, to avoid their feelings, and that's arises or that stems from trauma, from repressed trauma, and then they suffer from relationship issues, etc. So yeah, the book really, I really wanted to do something that is personal with my unique perspective, something that is practical with the exercise there, and something that is inspirational with the stories that people can relate to. So I do hope that I will contribute my um, my part to a better world. And just to say to you, Dr. Porter, thank you for this opportunity, because I know you are a busy man, and thank you for believing me.
Oh no, we need to get this word out there, and I appreciate you writing the book and sharing it with us, and sharing it with BrainTap Nation, giving them the 20% discount off the book. I always believe that the first step is knowledge. You if you don't know, you just kind of suffer in your inability to solve a problem because you don't know there's a solution. In now, hopefully, those that are listening, you'll share this solution with other people, and it's about community. We all somebody out there has a solution for you. This could be the solution that you're looking for: a family member, a friend, a coworker that's suffering in silence. You never know. I enjoyed reading it. You sent me a copy beforehand. I said, we got to get you on a podcast to share this with BrainTap Nation. So I appreciate you reaching out to me and doing that. We'll continue to share the word. And I know there's more we can do, but this is a great first step, and like you
You
said,
honestly think that I gave valuable answers. I know that I can do better, but it's very limiting in foreign language. But do you think you have something to work with for this podcast?
oh yes. Oh yes. This is good. Yeah. People need to, we just need to get enough if you're out there listening and you're suffering from any pain, from trauma, which almost I would say everybody has some trauma. It might not be surfacing, it might not be showing up, but it's hard to go through life without, you know, having trauma. And especially when you were younger and you couldn't identify it, you didn't know how to store, categorize, organize it. And then depending upon how you were brought up, you basically either compartmentalized it, kept it from yourself, and just kind of stuffed it, as they say, instead of dealing with it. But certain things will have it come up, and this is a good first step for a lot of people. And I think the way you told the stories, very unique. And I think that it's not just a book about telling you this is XYZ, you have this trauma, do this, this, and this, but it gets people to get their emotions involved, which I think is important to releasing, because emotion drives behavior. So if you want to change behaviors, you got to change your emotional responses. So very, very good. I think we got something here, and let's just get some people reading it. The next step is to make people aware, because in a world of information overload, there's a lot of information out there that I'm not promoting or not having on my podcast. I think this is really important, because in brain fitness, we know that trauma shuts down brain function. So people will shut down, just like if you're under stress, a lot of people will just go to sleep, or they'll just stay in their homes. They won't get in relationships. Life is meant to be lived. So let's uncover those things, those wounds, get them healed, and have loving, like you said, loving relationships filled with gratitude and sharing. I think the world needs more of that. So I don't think we could have enough podcasts about that, and people would just need to start incorporating those techniques. And everyone, I think you have a really good way of saying it. So let's hope we get some good response from the podcast.
Yeah, I hope so. And when I wrote this book, I knew that with my resources, it can take some time, but because I do it with my whole heart, I can wait. And it takes 10 years to become an overnight success. So I know I am patient, and I hope that people will find comfort with this book. And also I now working on uploading the exercise themselves itself to the YouTube channel, so people can use the rhythmic breathing, the guided meditations. It's something that I work on, and I hope it will be out soon.
Sure. Well, we'd love to encode those for BrainTap so we can share it with them too. And then we can always make a link back to the book so they know where it came from. So anything like that we can do would be very, very good. So again, thanks for being part of the podcast. We're going to end it now.
Thank you.
And go on to the next one, and we'll Share this out to the world. We'll get as many people as possible listening to it. And those listening, please like and share this. Get it out to anyone you know that you know is suffering, or anyone you suspect might be, that this could be something that could help them out. It's a very inexpensive way to start your first step toward recovery in any trauma situation. So again, you've been listening to the Brain Fitness Podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Patrick Porter. Oneg Shapira has been our expert here today talking about trauma and her work that she's been doing with her clients. And she's shared her story and some of the stories of her clients in the book that will help you to understand how you can resolve your trauma journey and start to live a life of joy and love and gratitude. So again, thank you, and look forward to the next Brain Fitness Podcast. And thanks for being a brain tapper and helping us to better our mission of bettering 1 billion brains. Thank you.
Thank you for joining us on our mission to better 1 billion brains. Follow at Dr. Patrick Porter on social media for updates, and remember to practice brain fitness every day.